Today the focus switches from Formula 1 to Formula E. I'm up pretty early this morning and driving halfway up the country to go and give a talk about how Formula E is helping to revolutionise an industry.
I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me.
So it feels like the perfect time to look ahead to this weekend's Berlin ePrix. So if you're not a regular fan of Formula E, if you haven't yet watched this with interest and taken note of what happens, you can't have escaped the fact that Formula E exists. It's growing at a meteoric rate, but if you haven't yet given it a chance and watched it with an open mind, can I suggest you do just that? This weekend we go back to Berlin. This is the 5th time we've raced in Berlin, the 4th time that we will have raced at the Tempelhof airport circuit. This is a temporary circuit laid out on the old historic airfield at Tempelhof Airport, just outside the centre of Berlin. It's actually a really interesting racetrack. It's one of the most interesting tracks that we go to because it has some fairly unique features. It's very sort of tight and twisty, as many of the tracks are. From a spectator's point of view, you can actually see much of the track from lots of different areas. So you're on top of it, it's very close. You can get up close and personal with the racing. One of the unique features of this racetrack, and one of the things that always plays a big part every time we go there, is the surface. Now, of course, most Formula E racetracks are city centre street circuits, so we're talking about tarmac with the regular potholes and drain covers and manhole covers and white painted lines and all of the normal street furniture that you get on regular city centre street tracks. At Tempelhof it's slightly different. We are talking about incredibly old, historic concrete apron in front of the iconic Tempelhof terminal building, big curved building around the front. And the apron out the front of that building is made of concrete with very, very coarse aggregate in the concrete. It's a really abrasive surface and one that has a huge impact on the way that the tyres work. Not something that Formula E cars and teams have to really deal with to that extent at any other circuit we go to. In the past few years, the Mahindra team have been very, very good at managing the tyres and the temperature of the tyres and the wear of the tyres over this particular event. Last year, of course, Felix Rosenqvist got his first ever race win at this track, and the team were pretty dominant, along with Virgin Racing. They were pretty dominant over the course of the weekend generally. This year, that team is still looking very, very strong, but not necessarily the standout team of the season. The standout team of the season so far is Jean-Eric Vergne's Techeetah team. There's lots going on in and around Formula E right now, behind the scenes as well as front and centre with the racing. We've had the announcement over the last week that there will be an 11th team in next season's championship. HWA are strongly affiliated with Mercedes team will be joining the championship as the 11th team. That very much is a team that will be learning the ropes, almost holding a place, if you like, for Mercedes when they come in with their full-blown factory-based entry next season. The Mercedes team have released a few details about that entry. It will be based, the powertrain at least, development will be based from the Brixworth factory, which is where they now produce their Formula 1 power units. They've already said that they'll be tapping into the experience of the high performance power unit division of their organisation. Obviously the Formula 1 team already uses and develops and designs and manufactures their own electric motors, their motor generator units for the Formula 1 team, and that experience will be absolutely crucial and really helpful when it comes to the development of the Formula E powertrain. So that HWA team, as I said, very, very closely linked with Mercedes, have been for many, many years. Highly likely that they will be running next year some Mercedes affiliated drivers. Now, Mercedes' DTM programme comes to an end at the end of this season's championship, which means that their entire roster of drivers will become potentially available for this Formula E programme. Now, I'm good friends with Paul Aresta, and I speak to him on a regular basis about this. He's very interested in getting involved in Formula E. In fact, he stopped in Berlin to say hi to the guys at Jaguar, for whom he tested at the rookie test earlier this season. But I just wonder if he will end up potentially as one of the drivers for HWA, with a view to eventually becoming a full-blown Mercedes driver for season 6. Speaking of Mercedes, their former world champion from 2016, Nico Rosberg, right now, as I speak, is preparing to drive the Gen 2 car, the brand new car for next season's championship, the car that will get rid of the mid-race car swap. That Gen 2 car is about to be driven through the streets of Berlin by Nico Rosberg this morning, Friday morning. He will then, on Saturday at the race event, do some demonstration laps around the circuit as well. And that'll be the first time that we've seen this car in public turning a wheel. It's done plenty of testing now, but all behind closed doors. It'll be the first public demonstration, and that responsibility for sitting behind the wheel of that falls to Nico Rosberg. Nico Rosberg, of course, by the way, an investor in Formula E. I spoke to him fairly recently about his involvement in Formula E. At the moment, he is just an investor, but he's keeping a very close eye on it, and it's something that he's very, very interested in following, potentially getting more involved with as the time rolls by. I wonder whether he will become involved in that Mercedes entry in some form or another. All is not well at the Andretti team. It hasn't been well for some time there. This is a team that has had some up and down results over the years, struggled to find consistency with its cars and with its drivers, and in recent times BMW, who will take over that team next season in a full-blown factory effort, have taken more and more influence over everything that the team does, including its driver selection. Now, I know that within the team that has caused some upset, some discontent, because there seems to have been some form of power struggle to some extent between the Andretti team and the people that run that team and BMW themselves. Now, in the last week or so, Tom Blomqvist, one of their drivers for this season, has been released by Andretti and will no longer race for the team. Stefan Sarazan has been brought in to compete for the last 4 races of this season. Seems like a slightly strange appointment. He's a great driver, lots of experience in Formula E, so in that sense you can see it. But if BMW are looking to build a team for ahead of next year, you would think Stefan Sarazan would not be one of the guys that would be on their list. They've got a huge roster of BMW factory affiliated drivers, and he is not one of them. To add some sort of spice to this whole story, long-time team manager Rob Arnott, who I know was pretty disgruntled by this whole BMW relationship at times, has left the team this week with no real explanation as to why that's happened. Alejandro Agag, founder and CEO of Formula E, who until fairly recently was making some noises that he might want to sell his stake in the business, seems to have had a complete turnaround and very publicly now has tabled what seems like a €600 million offer to buy back complete control of the business. What's his long-term strategy with Formula E? We had the announcement from Formula E yesterday that next season's championship will have its opening race in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, I know that that may have caused some controversy on social media in terms of the reaction because of the questionable, at best, human rights record that that country has historically had, but things are starting to change in Saudi Arabia. And one thing this highlights to me is how Formula E is on this aggressive global expansion to take over the world. Branching out into the Middle East is a great, great thing for Formula E. There was news this week coming out of Birmingham City Council suggesting that talks are at an advanced level with Formula E about bringing back motor racing to the streets of the UK's second biggest city. It might form part of a revival of what used to be called the Birmingham Super Prix. A fantastic event back in the 90s that included Formula 3000 and other categories of racing on the streets of Birmingham. It ran for a few years and then stopped, and we haven't seen it since. Could these talks form a Formula E event that might also bring the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy to Birmingham, along with potentially other championships as well, that might form some sort of great spectacle around the streets of this city? I don't know, and it's still nowhere near being confirmed just yet. I know there's also quite a lot of talk within Formula E about bringing Formula E back to the capital, back to London. That might, I think, be their preferred choice. But interesting that Birmingham are definitely having talks, or have had talks, with Formula E about the championship going there too. Either way, it looks like the UK will be getting a Formula E race back before too long, which is great news. Right, here we are. Right, talk went really well. It's a really good group. I was talking about how you disrupt an industry, both in Formula E and in Formula 1, or how you disrupt a traditional way of doing things to become better and to have some sort of competitive advantages, which is of course what Formula 1 does on a weekly basis, and what Formula E is trying to do in disrupting an entire industry, convincing the world that electrification, electric mobility, is not just some kind of fad, but is actually a better way of doing things. I honestly, truly believe it is. Electric cars, we are all about to find out, and we're all about to be convinced, are better than combustion powered vehicles. We just need to maximise the infrastructure around it, which is happening at a rapid pace. I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to be driving one myself, and I cannot wait for this weekend's Formula E race. The Berlin ePrix, as I said, I will be doing commentary on Formula E radio. I will have Adrian Newey's son, Harrison, alongside me, and Claire Cottingham as well, taking all of your social media questions. So if you want to get in touch, give us a shout out, hashtag ABBFIA Formula E or hashtag FE Radio, and we will try and give you a shout out on the radio. If not, just enjoy the race.